This is the Khmer Times News. My name is Paolo Bonini, and these are your headlines. But before we start, let me address the obvious question, which is, why has the newsreader's dashing good looks plummeted like Tesla shares in Germany? I feel I should explain. Or you'll be wondering why my face looks like this. Well, I have just returned from nasal surgery, so I may breathe easier when I sleep. The problem is, this happened. Blood seeped into my eyes and cheeks, and I'm all rather swollen. But don't you worry, it shall pass. And now that my Phantom of the Opera moment has been explained, let's go to the news, and here's your headlines. A young woman is buried in a shallow grave, but she does not stay silent. A military bodyguard hacks his wife to death with a machete. And Cambodian Power Rangers are nicked by the police. But first we start with a story that rolled out before me like a murder mystery script. It all started with this headline. Young woman found buried in Phnom Penh shallow grave was murdered by foreigner. A headline accompanied with a rather disturbing photo of two men digging the body up. At first, all we had was gruesome photos of a gravesite, but then this story really did take off. Just 24 hours later, police announced the body was in fact of a Cambodian teenage girl. Her death had been particularly violent, as she was discovered face down with her hands tightly bound behind her back. The dead girl's name was Miss Heng. The police soon announced that they would be very interested indeed in speaking to the dead girl's boyfriend, who was only identified at that time as a Chinese national. But it was only hours later that a further update came in. Police had detained the dead woman's boyfriend, and he was called Mr. Kong. He worked at a casino in Sihanoukville. So it's case closed. Well, no, because this murder got really murky. The police moved with some speed, as the very next headline showed. Foreign suspects identified in murder case of Phnom Penh teen. And now we are up to 2 arrested for the murder of Miss Heng, the boyfriend and an accomplice. But again, police announced that their investigation was still ongoing, and it was to take a very dramatic turn as a 3rd Chinese national was arrested, this time in Vietnam, wanted for questioning over the young girl's death. It was only now the truth came to light as to why Miss Heng was slaughtered and dumped in a shallow grave. It is believed the gang operated an extortion operation and had kidnapped and tortured a Chinese woman. And they had managed to collect the ransom successfully. The victim was then released, and on one condition, that she not report this kidnapping to any authorities. And she had agreed. But there was one problem for the gang. Miss Heng knew all about the kidnapping plot. Her boyfriend, Mr. Kong, was one of the 3 involved. And the 3 men then decided that Miss Kong's Cambodian girlfriend had to die, so there would be no witnesses. So Miss Heng, by invitation of her boyfriend, was lured to a quiet spot. Her hands were bound tightly behind her back, and she was murdered in cold blood. The body was buried by the side of a nondescript road, and all because she knew of this kidnapping. And the 3 vicious men feared it was her that would turn them in to jail. Well, they were right. With the discovery of her body by that roadside, she will now put them in jail. And she will put them into jail for an awful long time. On this week's Crime Desk, 2 men murder and then they both die. A military police officer takes a machete to his wife and butchers her. And another man takes a train, but does it really stupidly. And we kick off with a headline that really does obscure a most horrifying crime, a crime that involved a senior officer from the elite military bodyguard unit. The headline itself, though, was so very, very plain. It only said, "Officer arrested after stabbing death of wife." Now, those 7 words do nothing to relay the horror of what went on in a suburban home last week. It all began when police announced that they had arrested a lieutenant colonel for stabbing his wife to death at their Phnom Penh home. The suspect is said to have murdered a 43-year-old, and that woman was his wife. The family had mentioned to police that the two had argued many times before. Always, it was the same old rows involving money that they had invested into their property business. It seems the two disagreed violently on what should be done with the debts that were now due. And it all came to a head at 2 o'clock in the morning when yet another row exploded. Accusation was met with incrimination, and violence was soon to follow. The lieutenant colonel stood there seething at his wife. He then turned and left the bedroom, and he went down the stairs and entered the kitchen. He grabbed a meat cleaver and ran back up the stairs into the master bedroom. He walked towards his wife, and despite her pitiful screams, he rained savage blow after savage blow onto her head. The cleaver cut deeply into her face, her forehead, and then deep into her neck. The room's walls were soaked in blood as the helpless woman tried to defend herself. The husband saw what he had done, and he then threw the cleaver away and fled in the family car. The body was only discovered later by the victim's brother, and what he witnessed on that bedroom floor is a sight that few will ever know. He picked up the body of his sister and took her to Phnom Penh Royal Hospital, and he was told that she was dead. But maybe due to shock, he refused to believe this. So he put the body back in his car and drove her to Khmer Hospital, where he again presented it to doctors, and again he was told that his sister had in fact died. The senior officer has now been charged with murder, and he awaits his day in court. With a weekly news show like this, I am privileged in that I have the pick of the week's news. And each and every week I endeavour to bring you different stories, especially ones with a unique twist. And this next tale of double murder is so very unique, I did not even think it was possible. What are the chances that 2 men would become both the murderer and the victim at exactly the same time? The headline read, "2 gay men kill each other in jealous rage." Now, what being gay has to do with anything is a mystery, but the double homicide itself is extremely unusual, even bizarre. The deaths occurred at 11 o'clock in the morning at a house in Svar village, Kampong Speu province. The house was rented by 2 men, known to be partners. They were Pok Pani, 34, and Pan Na, 35. Both worked locally as hairdressers and had been living together peacefully for over a year. A senior police officer said that according to police investigations and information that they had received from neighbours, on the day of the killing, the 2 men became embroiled in a violent argument over infidelity. Tempers had flared, and one partner accused the other of seeing another man and betraying his love. The shouting match escalated, and then fists flew. One man reached over to a table and grabbed a knife. He slashed at his lover and hit him in the throat. Blood poured from the wound. And then, in this life and death struggle, the tables dramatically turned. The attacker dropped the knife, and the other man managed to retrieve it. He then took the exact same knife and did the exact same thing. He plunged the knife into his partner's neck. Incredibly, both men died from their wounds right there on the floor. This double murder is so very unusual. The senior officer in charge seems to be as perplexed as many others as to the nature of this crime. He concluded his report by saying, according to an examination of the bodies, both victims died due to the injuries to their throats. Crimes come in all shapes and sizes, and this week we had a senior military officer kill over money. Then we had two lovers that killed one another over love. And in crime, those two motives must be the most common of common denominators: love and money. But there is also another driving force behind criminal activity, and that is good old-fashioned stupidity. But I will be reserving judgment in this particular case until the end, even though what this guy did was really dumb. The headline read, "Foreign train surfer identified, may lose leg after accident." Now, this story went across the expat network like fire. Great, said all the trolls and the keyboard warriors. Now they had a golden opportunity to make themselves feel superior to others by calling this guy an idiot, and in doing so, proving that they were superior human beings. Apart from the well-known fact, of course, that all internet trolls have no money, no life, and are fundamentally pathetic losers who can only get life validation by critiquing and bullying others online. You know who you are. Now, a Captain Bones addressed this avalanche of self-righteous bullcrap that washed us all over with a very sincere and to-the-point sentiment. Just sit down in your seats, put your headphones in, and shut the beep up. Nice one, Bones, I'm with you on that one. And what the uproar was all about was a Swiss guy who was 21 years old, and he decided to ride on the roof of a train that was going from Battambang to Phnom Penh. He, of course, had with him a camera, and he was filming his antics so he may garnish those golden clicks that are so very imperative to being socially desirable nowadays. Problem was, a wire was hanging across the track and was heading directly at him. And our chocolate-munching, no-war-entering, gold-hoarding buddy from Switzerland got hit, and he got hit hard. The wire took him off the roof and under the train, where his legs were severely mangled by the train wheels. According to doctors, the victim may have to lose a leg due to amputation because his injuries were that severe. What he did was illegal, and it was certainly dumb. But he ain't worthy of all the derision and all those nasty words that were thrown at him. Because to define youth is doing illegal and being dumb. If someone doesn't call me Mr. Potato Head in the comments section, I will be very disappointed. Right, here we go. This week, I can almost feel the blood dripping off me. There's been so much horror and murder in this new show. But we do not wish to part company on such terms. So let us close this show on a more light-hearted note. And that note is Hitler. No, not that Hitler, the one before. Yes, that's the one. Well, actually, this story is about Power Rangers, but we have to go via Hitler to get to the Power Rangers. Now, that sentence, I promise you, has never been said on any news show, not ever. You see, about a year ago, I did a report on my most favourite story ever, and it was this kid who went to school dressed as Hitler. Now, the problem was he got an absolute ton of flack of people having a go at him on the internet. Yes, scumbag trolls attacked him because they're idiots. When in fact, the lad had a really good idea. His school was having a People in History Day, and he realised that Hitler is not so well known about in Cambodia, and he should be, as his crimes need to be remembered. So, they cannot be repeated. I myself even interviewed his mother, pictured here, and she said her son was so very upset by all the hate he had received. So I did a news story about him, and I awarded him a trophy for doing a good job in raising awareness of a dark chapter of history that should never be forgotten. Well, this week we had more young lads dressing up in costume, but this time they were on the wrong side of the law. They dressed like this. Yes, indeed, they went to all the trouble of making rather impressive Power Ranger costumes. And when they had done that, they took to the streets, popping wheelies and doing illegal stunts on their motorbikes. And to the surprise of absolutely nobody, the cops soon arrested them. Now, they had made videos of their Power Ranger exploits. Why you would do such a thing is a complete mystery, but due to YouTube now being pretty much a fascist state, the videos have all been removed. But after much digging, I did find in a deep dark corner of the web one short video of these two guys, not doing stunts, but dancing. So this week, we close our show with Cambodian Power Rangers getting on down. What is so odd here is how his mate is just sitting there, both of them dressed as Power Rangers and considering it all to be so normal. Cambodian Power Rangers. Who would have guessed it? It's time to have a look ahead and see what the weather has in store for us next week.
And here we are at the weather. Thank God. Right, let's go to the clip of the week. And as you know, I've been in hospital, so I was in hospital for a week, and then I was in a hotel room for a week, just to make sure that everything, equalised out. And being in a hotel room was miserable, but I had a view of the river, you see, and this is what I shot. This is what you're looking at now, and this is a bridge over in Bangkok, and this is at 6 o'clock on a Monday morning, and this is the only joy I had, was looking out my little window and then seeing other people suffering in a river of lights and misery as they went to work, and then I'd watch them all come back again over the same bridge. Poor buggers. At least I don't have to do that sort of thing anymore. Actually, I've never done it. I've always done something different. But that's besides the way. Let's get this newscast done. My face, I can't tell you, it's... Oh, I won't go. I'm going to stop complaining, and I'm going to fiddle with the buns here. Oh, hold on. I can't get it up. Hold on. If I stroke that knob. Oh, there it is. Right, it's in the upright. And what do I see when I look at the weather and actually get on with my job? I see a high of 94 degrees. And believe me, that is pretty warm because the humidity is creeping up as well. We have a smorgasbord of rain, cloud, and of sunshine. So you enjoy it. And now I'm going to bugger off and hopefully feel a lot better next week. So ta-ta. Have a great week. I'll see you next time.
This has been the Khmer Times News. Please do subscribe and comment and stay up to date with all the breaking news by following us on both Facebook and Telegram. This has been Paolo Bonini, and that was the week that was. I'll see you next weekend for your weekly Roundup.